Hello, guys. Welcome back to Around the World with TP. We're back with another one. On this episode, I would like to talk about culture shocks, the different culture shocks that I've experienced during my stay here in China. So we'll be talking about culture shocks between China and South Africa. Let's go. Okay, so where should I start? Okay, first let me start with for those who don't know what culture shocks are. Culture shock refers to a feeling of confusion, discomfort, disorientation that people experience when they encounter a new or a different culture. So basically, like this is what happens when you get introduced to a new culture, social norms, different values, everyday practices that you are unfamiliar with your culture. So that's what the term culture shocks basically refers to. So okay, now that that's out the way, our first culture shock is language barrier. It's the most obvious one, I think, when you go to a different country, depending actually which country you go to. So back home in South Africa, we've got 11 official languages, with English widely spoken and other native languages. But like English is what we most oftenly use to communicate when we don't know each other's native languages. Like let's say for instance, a Tsonga person wants to talk to a Xhosa or Zulu person, and it just so happens that Zulu doesn't understand the Xhosa, or so they use English as a means of communicating, of meeting each other in between. Well, here in China, Mandarin is the official language. It's spoken all over the country. I think they've got other dialects like Taiwanese and whatnot, but Mandarin is like everybody here speaks Mandarin. So there are little people who speak English like fluently, like fully. There's not a lot of people who speak English, which sometimes tends to be a problem in terms of communication. But otherwise, that's where we use phones to translate, and WeChat also makes it easier because you can translate from that platform. So moving on to our next culture shock, it's dining habits. So back home, like I said, we've got 11 official languages which represent 11 different cultures. And I am not kidding when I tell you this. Most, if not all of these cultures have meat in their signature dish. In South Africa, we love our meat. We love our meat to a point where braaiing is like our national treasure. Holidays, birthdays, any celebration, no celebration, just want to chill, we braai. And braaiing to other people in other parts of the world is what they call barbecuing. And I would put my head on the block by saying South Africa hosts the most delicious, entertaining braais across the world. I'll put my head on the block on that one. So let me know if you think differently down below in the comment section. So that's basically what we eat. We've got plenty of food, different kinds of food that we eat there. And then utensils, other people use fork and knives. Of course, we've got a small Asian community, they would use their chopsticks. But most native cultures, they use their bare hands. They are bare, clean hands. Hygiene is very important. So that's what they would use. Here in China, the most important, the most eaten meals are rice and noodles. And of course, they've got other dishes. They've got a gang lot of greenery, vegetables, and of course, they've also got meat and whatnot. But they don't have meat like, okay, they do have meat, but they don't cut it the same like us. I've never seen, for instance, let's say a brisket here. And it's very difficult for you to find a T-bone steak. Like just the other day, I went around, wanted some meat, and what I got was a thinly sliced portion of meat, almost like barbecue. And now I was craving a steak by that time. So those are the differences. And here they use chopsticks, obviously. And here in China, if you are to use your bare hands, people look at you strange. Like, they literally look at you strange. They offer you plastic gloves if you're going to use your hands. So that's what they normally use. Let's move on to the next one. Our next one will be a concept of time. So back home, the concept of time is quite flexible in social occasions like parties and whatnot. Somebody will tell you a party will start at 11 and it's gonna start at 2 or 3, you know. But in business settings, it's more formal. You need to be more punctual. Otherwise, you won't be respected in that world. But here in China, punctuality is everything. Punctuality is everything, to a point where if you are late, they'll take that as disrespect. They'll take that as disrespect. So you have to be on time. And another thing, while we're still on the concept of time, in China, we 6 hours ahead of South Africa. Like for instance, if it's 12 noon here, it's 6 a.m. in SA. So like China is 6 hours ahead of you guys there back home. Let's move on to the next culture shock. The next one is public transport. So public transport back home is quite limited. Like, excuse me, we've got buses, trains, although now there's not a lot of trains left, but we do have trains in some cities. And we've got taxis, what you guys in other parts of the world would call minivans. We've got those. So our public transport is quite limited, and of course e-hailing services like Bolt. We used to have Didi, but we don't now, and Uber. So here in China, their public transportation system is intense. Like, it's intense. They've got subways, they've got buses, they've got speed trains, they've got e-bikes, bikes that you can just rent out at any moment, whether it's 12 p.m. at night or during the day, even bikes. So their public transport is the way ahead of us. But it makes sense because they've got a population of about like 1.4 billion. So they would need all these modes of transportation. And it's insane when you go out during peak hours and you see all those bikes are there, cars, buses, and they come to an intersection, you know, and I've hardly seen an accident here. Not saying that there aren't any accidents, but it's quite impressive. It's quite impressive how everything seems to work smoothly when it comes to that. So let's move on to payment methods. So back home, we would normally use credit card, debit card, and cash. It's only like now that mobile payments are becoming, slowly but surely, people are tending to use those. But here in China, mostly people use mobile payments, with WeChat and Alipay being the most widely used. Like even people selling food on the street, WeChat Pay, Alipay. It's mobile payments mostly. So you hardly see anybody using cash here in China, which for me, I think it's a great system. It's a great system. It reduces crime and it's efficient. But I think another thing that helps is also their WeChat. It's not, you don't just get it by just providing any phone number. They like, you have to provide an ID if you're a Chinese citizen. If you're a foreigner like me, you have to give them, not give them, but show them your passport, and they take that, they review that, and they put it in the system. So if I was to run off with somebody's money, they know who it is, they know how to track me. So I think maybe that's also another aspect that makes it more secure. And I think this would be something worth looking into back home to reduce also crime. So let's move on to the next culture shock, which is the work culture. Well, the work culture back home it's balanced. People balance work and home. They balanced. Like normally people will work from Monday to Friday, with Saturday being half day, depending on the industry you're working, and sometimes 2 Saturdays a month, things like that, with I think around about 8 hours, depending on the industry, of course. People relatively work 8 hours a day. Here in China, the work culture is something else. like they emphasize on productivity, so they work relatively long hours. Also, again, depending on the industry, they work like from 9 to 9, 12 hours, 6 days a week, sometimes even Sundays. So their work culture is quite different to ours. The next one I'd like to touch on is the family structure. Now back home we've got a diverse family structures like nuclear, extended families, and some individualism. sorry for that. Here in China, it's their family structure. It's quite knit together. They're united, like from the grandparents, the parents, and the kids. That's how it often goes, with the emphasis of the younger ones looking after the older ones. Whereas in South Africa, you'll find when, let's say my mother, for instance, gets to a certain age, I can take her to an old age home instead of looking after her myself or me and my family or whatnot. But not everybody does this, but I'm just saying. But here, they emphasize on looking after their own grandparents. So that's the difference that I've seen so far. And like, usually when you go out in the afternoon, because now it's summer, it's a bit hot, when you go out, you will see their family is quite tightly, or more, I wouldn't say more, but like they're united. And I think this has got something to do with the one-child policy that China once had. I think that's a subject for another day. I'll do a video on that, because I think some people still think that China still has the one-child policy. They don't. So let's move on to the next one. Now this one was quite interesting for me. Counting. Like normally I thought that since normally everybody has 10 fingers, so we count similarly, even though maybe we might use different languages, only to find out that's not the case. Just the other day I went to a store, so I saw prices and I was tired of always translating, so I was asking, is this 6? And he was like, 6. Where I had to take out my phone and then explain to him what I was trying to say. And then I found out in China they count totally different to how I thought. Everybody else, by the way, in the world. So normally some people will say they count from the thumb to the pinky, but I count from the pinky to the thumb, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In China, this is
1、
okay.
2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9、10。
So that's how you count. Okay. Yeah, so for me, that was like, it blew me away. And then I got to learn, it's not just in China, even in other parts of the world, you'll find people use a different way of counting, using their hands and fingers and whatnot. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. The next one I'd love to touch on is medical systems. So back home, we've got a divided healthcare system with public and private. And private, they take better care of you, but it's relatively more expensive. And public, sometimes under-resourced, fewer doctors, fewer nurses, oftentimes fewer medication. You know, that's something we need to fix as a country. And with some cultures, it's getting rare, you'll find people using traditional medicines. But now here in China, even in their hospitals, they use Chinese traditional medicine. Well packaged, like almost like the Western medication. Although they have got Western medication, but relatively they use traditional Chinese medicine. That got me thinking, why aren't we doing the same? Because before we were colonized, we had some sicknesses and we had herbs and whatnot to cure us. So why aren't we also using that? I'm not saying we should get rid of the Western medication, but why aren't we also having an input when it comes to our own healthcare? Because you'll find it will make it a lot easier for pharmaceuticals to take advantage of us if we don't have our own medical medicines that we can rely on. Like I'm just saying, we need to have an option. So that's another thing that I think South Africa needs to look into. So the next one is the school calendar. So back home, we've got a school year that runs from January to December, divided into 4 terms with breaks in between. We've got a slightly longer winter break with, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and then a December break, I think it's about 3 to 4 weeks. Those two relatively being the longest. Here in China, their school system runs from September to June or July. And they've got 2 semesters with long winter break and a long summer break. Like just now, we came off was it the winter? Yeah, I think, no, we just came off the long summer break. We'll be heading into the winter break like round about December, June, I think January. Yeah, I think January, Feb, when you go towards the Chinese New Year, that's when the winter break kicks in. I don't quite remember which date, but I think it's Feb, closer to Feb. But then winter is gonna start soon, maybe November, but December it will be winter this side. So I think I should cut the video off there for now. And on culture shocks, we'll dive into others. So because I don't want to make this video too long. Thank you guys for all the support. Please guys, subscribe. It's free, guys. Let's engage on the comments. Let me know how you count wherever you are in the world. And yeah, that's I almost forgot another interesting thing that I found. I should have mentioned this in dining habits, but hey, now back home I used to like, okay, not I still do like chicken feet. We call them runaways. Like when I was back in tertiary in Pretoria, when we would go out clubbing, when we come out, you will find the guy with the braai stand with chicken feet there with a nice spicy sauce. So I'd love to munch onto those, snack onto those. And just the other day, I went into a snack shop, and guess what I found here in China? This is what I found. They've got chicken feet also as snacks, but they package them and they sell them in their snack stores. Like, I was like, what? This is crazy. So yeah, guys, let's end it there for now. Please like, share, comment, subscribe like I said, and bye. I'll see you on another one. Peace. So yeah, guys, subscribe, guys. Come on, guys, subscribe. It's free, man. I see a lot of you are watching this, and I see a lot of new people are watching this. Subscribe, comment, tell me what you think, what you would like to see, you know. So subscribe, man. Subscribe, talk to me. Like, comment, share. Yeah, let me just flip it around and show you some more.